Chirik had seen many things go wrong in 40 years of engineering. Broken pipes, failed systems, small fires that ate through cables. But the sound coming from the emergency panel was different. It was the sound that meant death was coming. The tall insectoid ran on 6 legs through the empty corridors of Orbital 7. The mining station floated above a massive gas giant, home to 847 workers from 12 different species. And 1 human. Chirik reached the control room and stared at the screens. Reactor Core 3 was dying. The coolant systems had failed. The containment field was breaking apart. In 18 minutes, the reactor would explode. The explosion would tear through the station and kill everyone aboard. Begin evacuation, Chirik ordered. The junior technicians scrambled to obey. But Chirik already knew the math. Full evacuation required 34 minutes. They did not have 34 minutes. They did not even have 20. Sir, one technician said, her voice shaking. We cannot get everyone out. I know, Chirik replied. There was only one way to stop the cascade failure. Someone would have to enter the reactor chamber and trigger the manual override. But the radiation inside had already passed lethal levels. Any Palori who entered would die in seconds. Any Morwani would dissolve. Any species Chirik knew would be dead before they reached the control panel. The door opened behind them. Danny Kowalski walked in, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. He was the station's only human, a short and stocky male with brown skin and dark hair. He had worked on Orbital 7 for 2 years. Chirik had always found him strange, but useful. What is happening? Danny asked. Reactor failure, Chirik said shortly. We are evacuating. Can we stop it? No. The radiation levels are too high. No one can survive inside the chamber. Danny moved closer to the main screen. He studied the numbers. Chirik expected fear on the human's face. Horror. Instead, Danny went very quiet. His eyes moved across the data, calculating something. What were the exact radiation readings? Danny asked. Chirik waved a claw at the screen. It does not matter. Those levels would kill any living creature. Show me anyway. Chirik pulled up the readings. Danny stared at them for a long moment. Then he did something strange. He nodded slowly, like he had made a decision. I could survive that, Danny said. For a few minutes. Maybe long enough. Chirik's mandibles clicked in shock. That is impossible. Those radiation levels would cook your organs. Humans are different, Danny said. He was already pulling off his jacket. We evolved on a planet with high radiation. Our cells can repair some of the damage. Not all of it, but some. You would die. Maybe. Maybe not. Danny looked at Chirik with steady eyes. How long do I need to stay inside to trigger the manual override? 3 minutes, Chirik said slowly. But no biological creature can. 3 minutes. I can do 3 minutes. Chirik wanted to argue, wanted to explain that this was madness. But the evacuation alarms were screaming, and the timer on the screen kept counting down. 16 minutes now. Then 15. You would burn from the inside, Chirik said. Then I will burn, Danny replied. But 847 people will live. A young Palori technician named Pirik stepped forward. I can show you the override sequence. It is 3 switches in a specific order. Danny nodded. Show me. While Pirik explained the sequence, Chirik watched the human. Danny's hands were steady. His breathing was calm. He did not look like someone preparing to die. He looked like someone preparing to work. When Pirik finished, Danny pulled a small tablet from his pocket. He tapped the screen and spoke quietly into it. Mom, Dad, Lucia. He paused. I am about to do something stupid. You know how I am. But there are people here who need help, and I can help them. So I'm going to try. Another pause. I love you. All of you. Tell Lucia she better keep taking her medicine. And tell Dad his fishing stories are not as boring as I always said. He handed the tablet to Chirik. If I did not make it out, Danny said, please send that to Earth. Chirik took the tablet. The device felt impossibly light in her claws. Human, Chirik said. Danny, you understand that this will likely kill you. Yes. And you still wish to proceed? Danny smiled. It was a small smile, tired but genuine. Chief, where I come from, we do not let people die if we can stop it, even if it costs us. He walked toward the massive airlock that led to the reactor chamber. The radiation counter on the wall was screaming, flashing red warnings. The air near the door already felt wrong, heavy with invisible poison. Danny stopped at the airlock. He took one deep breath, then another. "Open it," he said. Chiric's claw moved to the control panel. Every instinct told her to stop, to find another way. But there was no other way. There was only this human, standing before a door that led to death, asking her to open it. The airlock hissed and began to slide apart. The blue-white light poured through the growing gap. Heat washed over Danny's face. He did not step back. "Timer starts now," Danny said, and he walked into the fire. Scylla had never moved so fast in all her life. The Morwani medical officer was a gelatinous creature, pale blue and translucent, and her species was not built for running. But when the call came from the control room, she flowed through the corridors like water down a drain. That a human was about to walk into the reactor. By the time she reached the control room, the argument was already happening. Chiric stood before the airlock, blocking Danny with all 6 of her limbs. "This is suicide," Chiric said. "I will not allow it." "You do not have a choice," Danny replied. His voice was calm but firm. "The evacuation will not finish in time. You know this. There must be another way." "There is not." Silu pushed through the gathered technicians. "Stop, both of you. Let me see the readings." Chiric stepped aside. Silu studied the screens, her membrane rippling as she processed the information. The radiation levels inside the reactor chamber were indeed lethal. For a Paolori, death would come in 8 seconds. For a Morwani like herself, perhaps 12. For every species she knew, the result was the same, but humans were strange. "How much do you know about human biology?" Danny asked her. "Enough," Scylla said. "Your species evolved on a high radiation world. Your cells contain repair mechanisms that other species lack. You can survive damage that would kill most creatures. So I can survive in there. For a time." Silu calculated quickly. Based on these readings, a human might remain functional for 4 to 6 minutes. Perhaps longer if you are unusually healthy. "The override takes 3 minutes, Danny said. "That gives me time." Chiric made a sound of frustration. "Even if you survive, the damage will be severe. You could lose years from your lifespan. You could develop cancers. Your organs could fail weeks or months from now." "I know. Then what?" Chiric demanded. "Why would you do this?" Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his tablet and showed them something. Records from Earth. Photographs of humans in strange suits, walking through destroyed buildings. Documents with names and dates. "These are the Chernobyl liquidators," Danny said. "In 1986, a nuclear reactor exploded in a place called Ukraine. These men walked into the radiation to stop it from getting worse. Some of them died. Some of them survived. But they did it because millions of people would have died if they did not." He showed them another file. More photographs. More names. Fukushima, 2011. Another reactor failure. Workers stayed inside to prevent a larger disaster. They knew the radiation was killing them. They stayed anyway. Silu felt something cold move through her membrane. She had studied many species. She had never encountered one that produced so many individuals willing to die for strangers. "This is not normal," she said quietly. "Most species run from danger. They protect themselves first. Humans do that too," Danny admitted. "We are selfish and scared like everyone else. But sometimes, when it matters, we choose to be something more." Chiric, the young technician, stepped forward again. I showed him the override sequence. He knows what to do. Chiric turned on the young Paolori. "You helped him plan this?" "I helped him save us," Chiric said. There was no fear in the young one's voice, only certainty. The evacuation alarms continued to scream. On the main screen, the timer showed 11 minutes remaining. Silu watched the numbers fall and felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "If you do this," she told Danny, "come to the medical bay immediately after. Do not wait. Do not stop to talk. The faster I can begin treatment, the better your chances." Danny nodded. "Understood. I will prepare everything we have. Radiation treatment drugs. Cell repair stimulants. Everything. Thank you." Chiric had stopped arguing. The chief engineer stood before the airlock, her mandibles clicking softly. She looked old suddenly. Tired. Human, she said. Danny, I have commanded this station for 15 years. I have never asked anyone to die for it. You are not asking, Danny said. I am offering. What? Danny thought about it. Really thought. Scylla watched his face change as he searched for words. Because my sister had cancer when we were young, he finally said. I spent months sitting in hospitals, watching doctors and nurses work themselves to exhaustion trying to save her. They did not know us. We were just strangers, but they fought for her anyway. He paused. She survived because people she had never met decided that her life was worth saving. I promised myself I would do the same for others if I ever had a chance. He walked to the airlock. The radiation counter screamed louder as he approached. Open it, he said again. This time, Chirik did not argue. She moved to the control panel and entered the authorization code. The airlock began to open. Blue-white light. Waves of heat. The smell of burning air. Danny stepped forward into the glow. Just before he disappeared through the door, he looked back at them. At Chirik. At Silu. At Pirik. Get everyone to the evacuation ships, he said. Just in case I fail. Then he was gone, swallowed by the fire, and the airlock sealed shut behind him. The heat hit Danny like a wall. It pushed against his chest, his face, his arms. It felt like standing too close to a furnace, except the furnace was everywhere and there was no escape. He kept walking. The reactor chamber was large, maybe 50 meters across. The core sat in the center, a massive cylinder of metal and crystal that pulsed with blue-white light. Under normal conditions, that light would be steady and calm. Now it flickered and surged, unstable, dying. Danny's skin began to burn. Not the burning of fire, but something deeper. He could feel it in his bones, in his blood. Invisible poison flooding into every cell. 1 minute. The manual override panel was on the far side of the chamber. He had memorized the path. Straight ahead, past the secondary cooling tanks. Left at the support column. 20 more meters to the panel. Simple. Easy. Just a walk across a room. Except the room was trying to kill him. His eyes watered so badly he could barely see. He wiped them with the back of his hand and kept moving. The floor beneath his feet was hot enough to feel through his boots. Each breath brought air that tasted like metal and ASH. In the control room. Chirik watched through the heat-resistant cameras. The image was grainy, distorted by radiation interference, but clear enough to see Danny stumbling forward through the hellish glow. He is still moving, Pirik whispered. Humans are insane, Chirik replied, but there was no anger in her voice. Only I'll point 1 minute 30 seconds. Danny reached the secondary cooling tanks. They were supposed to be cold, filled with liquid that absorbed heat from the reactor. Now, they were cracked and empty, their contents boiled away. He moved past them, trying not to touch the superheated metal. His hands were shaking. Not from fear. The radiation was attacking his nervous system, making his muscles twitch and spasm. He clenched his fists and willed his body to obey, left at the support column. The panel was ahead. He could see it now, a flat screen with 3 large switches beneath it. 2 minutes. Danny reached the panel and stared at the switches. His vision was blurring. He blinked hard, forcing his eyes to focus. First switch. He grabbed it and pulled. It moved smoothly, clicking into the new position. Second switch. Same motion. Click. Third switch. It did not move. Danny pulled harder. The switch was stuck, warped by the heat. The metal had expanded and locked it in place. No, he said. His voice was a rasp, damaged by the poisoned air. No, no, no. He grabbed the switch with both hands and pulled with all his strength. Nothing. The switch refused to move. 2 minutes 30 seconds. In the control room. Chirik saw the problem. She saw Danny struggling with a third switch. She saw the timer counting down. 9 minutes until the reactor exploded. He cannot do it. One of the technicians said. Be quiet, Chirik ordered. Danny stopped pulling. He looked at his hands. They were red and raw, already blistering from the radiation and heat. The switch had cut into his palm, drawing blood that he remembered something from his training. Metal expanded when heated, but wet metal created steam. Steam was pressure. Pressure was force. Danny pressed his bleeding palm against the switch. The blood sizzled and hissed. Steam rose from the hot metal point. 3 minutes. He pulled again. The switch moved at IT, clicked into position, and the panel lit up green. The containment sequence began. Somewhere behind him, Danny heard the rumble of backup systems activating. Emergency coolant flooding into the core. The blue-white light began to stabilize. He had done it. Now he had to get out. The airlock was on the far side of the chamber. Back the way he came. 50 meters of burning air and invisible death. Danny turned and started walking. His legs felt wrong. Heavy and clumsy, like they belonged to someone else. Each step was harder than the last. He made it past the support column, past the empty cooling tanks. 3 minutes 30 seconds. That he could see the airlock now. A rectangle of darker shadow against the glowing walls. Safety. Survival. Just 30 more meters. 20 meters. He fell. His legs stopped working mid-stride, and he went down hard. The floor burned against his hands and knees. He tried to push himself up, but his arms would not cooperate. Crawl, he told himself. Just crawl. He dragged himself forward. One arm, then the other. His blood left smears on the hot floor, sizzling and turning to ash. 10 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters, 3 minutes 50 seconds. Danny collapsed. His body refused to move any further. He reached one hand toward the airlock, fingers stretching toward the door that meant life. That he could not reach it. 4 minutes. The camera showed his hand fall. His body went still. The timer on Chiric's screen read 4:12 when Danny Kowalski stopped moving, 3 feet from safety. I in the control room. No one spoke. No one moved. The reactor hummed quietly, contained and stable, and the human lay on the burning floor, silent and motionless, while the evacuation alarm screamed on. Pirik was the one who went in after him. The young Palori did not ask permission, did not wait for orders. The moment the radiation levels dropped enough to survive for a few seconds, Pirik ran through the airlock, grabbed Danny by the arms, and dragged him out. It took 4 seconds. Pirik would spend 2 days in the medical bay recovering. The young technician said it was worth it. Now Danny lay in a bed surrounded by machines. Tubes ran into his arms. Lights blinked on monitors. Silu had not left his side in 18 hours. How is he? Chirik asked from the doorway. Silu did not look up. Alive. Barely. His body is fighting the damage, but I do not know if he will win. What are his chances? I cannot say. Human biology does not follow normal rules. Silu adjusted 1 to 4 lines. His cells are repairing themselves. I can see it happening under the scanner. Damaged tissue is being replaced, but the damage is extensive. It may be too much. Chirik entered the room and stood at the foot of Danny's bed. The human looked smaller somehow. Fragile. His skin was red and peeling. His hair had fallen out in patches. Bandages covered his hands or the switch had cut him. He saved us, Chirik said. All 847 of us. Yes. I did not believe he could do it. Neither did I. Word had spread through the station within the first hour. By the second hour, workers had started gathering outside the medical bay. Palori and Morwani and a dozen other species standing in the corridor waiting for news. They did not speak. They did not need to. Pirik came to visit when Silu finally allowed it. The young technician's exoskeleton was still discolored from radiation exposure, but Pirik insisted on being there. This is my fault, Pirik said. I showed him how to do it. I helped him kill himself. He is not dead yet, Chirik replied. But if he dies, then he dies a hero. And you helped him become one. Chirik placed a claw on Pirik's shoulder. You gave him the knowledge he needed. What he did with it was his choice. The first day passed. Danny's heart stopped once. Scylla brought him back with electric shocks and raw desperation. The monitors resumed their steady beeping. The second day passed. More workers gathered outside. Some brought offerings. A Morwani left a container of preserved foods from her homeworld. A Palori craftsman left a small carved figure. Notes appeared in languages Danny could not read, written by hands and claws and tentacles. That on the third day, Chirik received a message from the Palori Consortium headquarters. They had heard what happened. They wanted to know if the stories were true. Chirik confirmed them. The response came quickly. The consortium wished to award Danny Kowalski the title of Kareth Soul. It was the highest honor in Palori culture, given to those who walked into darkness so others could live. In 500 years, it had never been given to a non-Palori. Chirik filled out the paperwork and sent it back. On the third night, Danny's fever broke. His vital signs stabilized. Silu ran scan after scan, unable to believe what she was seeing. His cells are winning, she told Chirik. The repair mechanisms are actually working. The damage is still severe, but his body is healing faster than I thought possible. Will he live? I believe so. Yes, I believe he will live. Chirik stood in the corridor outside the medical bay and told the gathered workers. The cheer that went up echoed through half the station that Danny's heart stopped again on the fourth morning. This time, it restarted on its own. Scylla watched it happen, watched the human's stubborn body refuse to give up. Humans, she muttered. Impossible créature. That afternoon, Danny opened his eyes. His vision was blurry. His throat felt like it had been scraped with sand. Every part of his body ached with a deep, bone-level pain. But he was alive. Silu was there, her gelatinous form rippling with emotion. Chirik was there, mandibles clicking in what Danny had learned was joy. Pirik was there, young face streaked with tears. Danny tried to speak. His voice came out as a whisper, barely audible. Did it work? Chirik leaned closer. What? Danny forced the words out. The reactor. Is everyone okay? For a long moment, Chirik did not answer. Then the chief engineer made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. Yes, Chirik said. Yes, human. It worked. The reactor is contained. Everyone is safe. Danny closed his eyes. A small smile crossed his blistered face. Good, he whispered. That is good. Then he slept again, deeply and peacefully, while 847 lives continued around him. 2 weeks later, Danny sat by the viewport and watched the gas giant turn slowly beneath the station. Orange and gold clouds swirled in patterns larger than continents. It was beautiful. He had never noticed before how beautiful it was. His hands rested in his lap. They were covered in new scars, pink and shiny, still healing. The doctors said the scars would fade with time. Danny was not sure he wanted them to. Chirik visited every day now. The chief engineer would stand in the doorway, clicking her mandibles, searching for words. Today, she finally found some. The consortium has offered you a full pension, Chirik said. Transport back to Earth. You could retire, live comfortably, never work again. Danny nodded slowly. That is generous. You earned it. Maybe. Chirik moved into the room and stood beside him at the viewport. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just watched the planet turn. Why did you do it? Chirik asked finally. I have asked you before. You told me about your sister, about the doctors who saved her. But there must be more. No one walks into death for strangers without a reason. Danny thought about it. He had been thinking about it for 2 weeks, lying in bed with nothing to do but remember. The fire, the pain, the moment when his legs stopped working and he thought he would die 3 feet from safety. When I was young, he said slowly, I used to think heroes were special people. People born different, stronger, braver, better than everyone else. And now I know that heroes are just people who choose to act. Nothing more, nothing less. Danny touched the scar on his palm. In the reactor, I was not brave. I was terrified. Every step hurt. Every breath burned. I wanted to run away and hide. But you did not. No, because running away meant letting people die. And I could not live with that. Danny smiled, but it was a tired smile. The truth is, Chirik, I am not special. I am just stubborn. Too stubborn to let fear make my choices for me. Chirik was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Among my people, we have a word. Kiretsod. It means one who walks into darkness for others. I have heard of it. The consortium has granted you this title. You are the first non-Palori to ever receive it. Danny did not know what to say. He looked at his scarred hands, at the viewport, at the swirling planet below. I do not feel like a Kareth soul, he said finally. I just feel tired. A message arrived from Earth that evening. Danny's tablet lit up with a video file, marked urgent. He opened it with trembling fingers. His sister Lucia appeared on screen. She was crying. "You absolute idiot," she said. "You complete and total idiot. What were you thinking? Mom and Dad are a mess. I am a mess. We thought you were dead." Danny felt tears forming in his own eyes. "But you did it," Lucia continued. "You saved all those people, just like the doctors saved me." She wiped her face. "I'm so proud of you, and so angry, both at the same time. I do not know how that is possible, but it is." She laughed through her tears. "Come home when you can. We miss you. I miss you." She leaned closer to the camera. "And take your medicine. Whatever the doctors give you, take it. Do not be stubborn about your own health. Promise me." "I promise," Danny whispered to the screen, even though she could not hear him. The next morning, Chirrut came to him with a question. "The consortium wants to know your decision. Will you accept the pension and return to Earth?" Danny thought about his sister, his parents, the fishing stories his father told that were boring but somehow comforting. He thought about home. Then he thought about Orbital 7, about Pyrrhic, who had run into radiation to save him, about Silu, who had fought for his life for 4 days, about the workers who had left offerings outside his door. "How long until Reactor Core 3 is fully repaired?" he asked. Chirrut blinked. "Perhaps 6 months. The damage was extensive." Danny nodded. "Then I will stay until it is finished. Someone needs to make sure the repairs are done right." Chirrut stared at him. Her mandibles clicked in the pattern Danny had learned meant disbelief. "You nearly died because of that reactor, and you want to stay and fix it?" "Yes. Humans are insane." Danny grinned. The expression pulled at the new scars on his face, but he did not care. "Yeah," he said. "We know." 1 year later, the shuttle from the Galactic Council docked at Orbital 7. 3 delegates emerged, representing species Danny had never seen before. They carried recording devices and data tablets. They had questions. Pyrrhic met them at the airlock and guided them through the station. The young engineer had grown in the past year. More confident, more skilled. Danny had made sure of that. "The human you seek is in the reactor bay," Pyrrhic told the delegates. "He is supervising the final systems check." "He still works here?" one delegate asked. "After what happened?" "He refused to leave." The delegates exchanged glances. They had traveled far to understand humanity. They were beginning to realize how difficult that task would be. Danny was elbow-deep in a maintenance panel when they found him. His sleeves were rolled up, showing the scars that covered his forearms. His hair had grown back, though patches of it were now gray. He looked up when the delegates approached. "You must be the council representatives," he said. "Give me a minute to finish this." The delegates waited while Danny tightened a series of connections, ran a diagnostic, and nodded with satisfaction. Only then did he climb down from the panel and face them properly. "You want to ask about the reactor incident," Danny said. "It was not a question. We want to understand," the lead delegate replied. "The reports say you entered a lethal environment to save others, that you did this knowing you would likely die. The reports are accurate. But why?" Danny wiped grease from his hands with a cloth. He had answered this question many times now. For the consortium, for the news feeds, for curious workers who approach him in corridors. The answer never felt complete. "There is nothing special about me," he said finally. "I'm not stronger than other humans. Not smarter. Not braver. I just saw something that needed to be done, and I did it. Would other humans have done the same?" Danny thought about it. Thought about Chernobyl and Fukushima. About firefighters running into burning buildings. About soldiers throwing themselves on grenades. About ordinary people diving into rivers to save drowning strangers. "Many would," he said. "Not all, but many." The delegates seemed disturbed by this answer. One of them made notes on a tablet. Another stared at Danny as if trying to solve a puzzle. "Your species confuses us," the lead delegate admitted. "You are not the strongest in the galaxy, not the fastest, not the most intelligent. Yet everywhere we look, we find humans doing impossible things. We are stubborn," Danny said simply, "and we care about each other, even strangers, even aliens we have never met." He shrugged. "I cannot explain it better than that." After the delegates left, Pyrrhic took Danny to see something. The young engineer had been secretive about it for weeks, refusing to explain. Now the secret was ready. They stopped outside Reactor Core 3. The chamber had been rebuilt, upgraded, made safer than before. But that was not what Pirik wanted to show him. A plaque had been mounted on the wall beside the entrance. It was made of metal taken from the old reactor chamber, polished until it shone. In the center was a handprint, pressed deep into the surface. Below it, words in 17 languages. Danny read the common text. One walked into fire, so none would burn. We used the imprint from where you fell, Pirik explained. Where your hand touched the floor, the metal preserved it. Danny reached out and touched the plaque. His scarred fingers traced the shape of his own handprint. He did not know what to say. He was not sure he could speak if he tried. You changed us, Pirik said quietly. All of us. The whole station. Before you, we thought humans were useful. Strong workers. Good engineers. But we did not understand you. And now we know what humans are willing to do for others. And we're trying to learn from it. That evening, a new worker arrived on the station. A young Palori, fresh from the academy, nervous and uncertain. The worker approached Danny in the cafeteria, eyes wide. Are the stories true? The young Palori asked. Did a human really enter a critical reactor? Danny looked at the newcomer, saw the fear and the hope and the wonder mixed together. He remembered being young himself, believing that heroes were special people born different from everyone else. The story is not about me, Danny said. It is about choosing to act when action matters. Anyone can make that choice, even you. But how did you know you would survive? Danny smiled. The expression came easier now than it used to. I did not know, he admitted. I just knew that doing nothing was not an option. The young Palori nodded slowly, processing this. Then the newcomer thanked Danny and hurried away, probably to tell friends about meeting the famous human. Danny returned to his meal. Outside the viewport, the gas giant continued its slow rotation. Orbital 7 continued its orbit. And somewhere across the galaxy, the story continued to spread. Humans are not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the most advanced, but when the reactor goes critical, they are the ones who walk in barehanded. And that makes all the difference.